Good morning. Code Orange. Federal authorities raised the terror threat level to high for financial institutions in New York, northern New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. after hearing al-Qaeda was planning another attack. Security is extraordinarily tight today, Monday, August 2nd, 2004.
From NBC News, this is Today with Katie Couric and Matt Lauer. Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning. Welcome to Today on a Monday morning. I'm Matt Lauer.
And I'm Campbell Brown. And for Katie this morning, authorities say they've discovered meticulous planning by al-Qaeda to use car or truck bombs in New York, New Jersey, and in Washington, D.C.
That's right. The federal government has never given a threat warning so detailed, with specific warnings for buildings like this one, the Citigroup Center located in Midtown Manhattan. So what is being done to stop the terrorists? We're going to ask Homeland Security Secretary Tom Ridge that question, and New York City Police Commissioner Ray Kelly the question as well. Also, we're going to take a look at how the ongoing terror threat will impact the presidential campaign. And then some stunning new developments in the search for Lori Hacking, the Utah woman who vanished nearly 2 weeks ago. Over the weekend, the parents of Lori Hacking and her husband Mark released a statement. It says basically that Mark has provided police information that led them to call off the volunteer search. You can only imagine what he's told police. We'll get the latest on that coming up as well. Campbell?
And then you'll see a lot of strange wildlife walking the streets of New York. But even the most jaded city residents had to look twice this weekend when a tiger escaped from the circus and went on the loose. We'll find out how it happened when we talk to the owner of the circus and the tiger's trainer a little later on this morning. We're also going to meet a brave little 11-year-old boy from Texas. He was attacked by a shark a week ago, nearly severing his arm. And this morning he's going to tell us how he's doing and if he ever plans to go back into the water again.
I look forward to hearing from him. But before we get to all that, let's get the morning's top stories. From early today's Natalie Morales, who's filling in while Ann is on assignment this morning. Natalie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt and Campbell, and good morning, everyone. We begin now with the response to that dramatically detailed threat warning. NBC's Pete Williams is in the nation's capital with more. Pete, good morning.
Natalie, good morning to you. In all the months since September 11th, the government has never given out a threat warning this specific. But now, new intelligence gathered just within the last few days in connection with the arrest of a most wanted al-Qaeda terrorist named Ahmed Gailani allows Homeland Security officials to pinpoint the potential targets. The new warning applies to the New York Stock Exchange, buildings of two financial companies, Citigroup in New York and Prudential Financial, headquartered in Newark, New Jersey, and in Washington, D.C., the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. It's an unusually detailed warning because officials say they've discovered remarkably detailed evidence of painstaking terror planning.
The quality of this intelligence, based on multiple reporting streams in multiple locations, is rarely seen, and it is alarming in both the amount and specificity of the information.
So the terror threat level goes up one notch, but only for the financial sectors of New York City, northern New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. NBC News has learned that the CIA discovered the troubling new information on a laptop computer in Pakistan, obtained after a recent arrest there. It revealed that the planning began even before the 9/11 attacks and continued after, with people in the U.S. carefully detailing where a car or truck bomb could be planted, with the goal of bringing the buildings down. Al-Qaeda operatives even checked times when security guards were on duty and what kind of uniforms the guards wore. But intelligence officials say they don't know whether this discovery has foiled the attack plan. Police in Washington say they're already responding to the new information.
We have no plans at this time to totally shut down the area around the IMF and World Bank. But we will be greatly enhancing our presence along with the private security that's already there.
It's not yet known who those al-Qaeda operatives were who cased these buildings or whether they're still here. And as analysts go over all this new information, they say they could add other buildings to the list of potential targets. Natalie?
Pete Williams in Washington. Thank you, Pete. As early as today, President Bush could issue orders on implementing some of the reforms suggested by the 9/11 Commission. But White House officials say the recommendation for a new intelligence czar is still the subject of intense debate within the administration. For his part, Senator John Kerry has already said he accepts the panel's recommendations in their entirety. Iraq's national security advisor says bombings outside 5 churches appear to be the work of wanted terrorist Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. 11 people were killed and 50 were wounded Sunday. Iraqi police were able to disarm a 6th bomb. The attacks were the first major assault on Iraq's Christian minority since the insurgency began. 3 days of national mourning have begun in Paraguay. At least 250 people were killed in a fire in a crowded supermarket Sunday. Some survivors say they were unable to open doors as they tried to escape. The fire may have been fueled by a gas explosion. The Carolina coasts are now under a tropical storm warning as the first named storm of the 2004 hurricane season inches closer. Tropical storm Alex is bringing high surf and rip currents to the southeast and mid-Atlantic coast. It is expected to strengthen before reaching land early tomorrow. And residents near Philadelphia are cleaning up from flash floods after as much as 4 inches of rain turned roads into rivers Sunday. But a few drivers apparently thought their cars could float and they drove right into the chest-deep water. There were no reports of any serious injuries. It is now 7:06. Back over to Matt and Campbell.
All right, Natalie, thank you very much. Mr. Roker not with us this morning. He is down in Florida, Orlando to be specific. It's SeaWorld. Hey, Al, good morning.
Hey, Matt Campbell, we're swimming with the fishes. Well, not really fishes. We got
All right, Al, thank you very much. On Close Up this morning, the new terror warning for major financial institutions in New York, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. Tom Ridge is the Secretary of Homeland Security. Secretary Ridge, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Matt.
Let me to you. So,
Good to be with you, Matt.
Good to have you here. So let's say we've got someone working in one of these 5 targets that have now come to light. They're getting up this morning, they're watching this show, and they're saying, I'm not sure I want to go to work. What's your message to them?
Well, if they do go to work, they're going to see a significant security presence. Certainly, New York City police officers here in the city. I know in other locations in Newark and in Washington as well. We worked closely with the security people at these locations. Citigroup, for instance, New York Stock Exchange. We've been doing that for a while. Met with them yesterday. I think, as I say, they'll see an awful lot of security presence.
Let me ask you the question that comes up at cocktail parties when people discuss this. They say, okay, they've listed these 5 locations. They're going to go crazy and cordon off those particular buildings. And if I'm a terrorist, I'm going 2 blocks down the road, and I'm going to carry out my plan there. What's to stop that from happening?
Well, you're going to see increased security throughout the city, not just at these locations, but clearly, as Secretary Ridge said, we live in an open society. We can't protect every location. We are using intelligence. We are using some instinct. I think we've had an awful lot of practice here, you might say, in deploying our resources. I think, and in New York, I will tell you, there are police throughout, certainly throughout Manhattan during the business day in great numbers.
One of the things people are going to see is a rerouting of commercial traffic into this city. Explain to me how that's going to work as we put up a map, I hope, of the major entry points into this city.
Well, no truck traffic will be allowed on the Williamsburg Bridge. No truck traffic, van traffic will be allowed through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. The Holland Tunnel will also be restricted as far as commercial truck traffic is concerned.
Why only commercial traffic coming under such scrutiny? I drove into this city through a major tunnel last night, and unfortunately a big SUV, not a glance from anybody. I'm curious, aren't these people very smart? Don't they adapt to what security they see?
Yeah, and we adapt as well, but we have to make some judgments. Again, this information has come in the last, in essence, 72 hours. So this is our initial reaction. We'll be looking at this on a daily basis to see what we're doing. But I think this is prudent, at least in the first business day after we receive this information.
When you got this information, did it make you much more concerned about the Republican National Convention to be held here in just a little bit under a month?
Well, we've been concerned about the convention for a long time, but again, this is very detailed, specific vulnerability analysis that we've seen here. So it does focus us on the sophistication of our enemy.
Police Commissioner Ray Kelly, I appreciate you being here. I know you've got a lot to do this morning.
Thank you, Matt.
It's 14 after the hour. Here's Cam.
Thanks, Matt. So how will the threat of more terror attacks impact the presidential race? Howard Fineman is an NBC News analyst and Newsweek magazine senior political correspondent. Good morning, Howard.
Good morning, Campbell.
So what is the effect politically? Not to be cynical, but does this help the president?
Well, the war was going to be central. The war on terrorism was going to be central to this campaign anyway. John Kerry wanted it to be, as he showed in his convention, and George Bush is running as commander-in-chief. But this just turns the intensity up a notch. As the commissioner said, the Republican convention is coming up. This is going to remind everybody of the security and the threats posed by terrorists. The 9/11 Commission, already central, will be even more central about its recommendations, and I think you'll see the president probably adopt all of them, I would guess, as John Kerry has done. This was going to be a war about the war, this presidential campaign, Campbell, and this just reminds us why.
Some of the president's critics might say, and some frankly have said, that the White House is using this information for political purposes.
Well, certainly Democrats who are hoping to get more of a bounce than they did out of the Democratic convention have to wonder, and I'm sure some of them are saying aloud, how come these warnings come so close on the heels of the Democrats' convention in Boston? But I think what's going on here is, number one, government officials in charge of security want to make sure that they have told people what they know in the off chance that a real event happens. They want to be on record as having warned about it, number one. And number two, they want to try to slow down terrorists, because studies have shown and events have shown that if plots are exposed, it slows down the pace of terrorist planning for action. So clearly George Bush wants to be seen as the man protecting America, and to that extent it plays right into the themes of his campaign. But this is real stuff here based on everything we've heard.
Okay, Howard, let's talk about that bounce or lack thereof. According to Newsweek's latest poll, Kerry's numbers are almost unchanged. How does this happen after a week of nonstop coverage and mostly favorable coverage?
Yes, I think the coverage was good. I think the audiences were big for Kerry's speech. The cable coverage was intense, if I may say so, great on MSNBC and Chris Matthews. Here are the reasons why there was not more of a bounce. Number one, there are not that many bounceable people to get. There's probably only 1 in 10 voters who's undecided. That's number one. Number two, John Kerry used up a lot of his fizz by naming John Edwards a few weeks ago. And I think third, that the pageant in Boston may have raised as many questions as it answered. It was a nonstop parade of generals and flag waving and all of the things related to the security issues we were just talking about. But I'm not sure that convinced undecided Republicans that the Democratic Party is now the strong party, and I'm not sure it excited the Democratic base, which was looking for more sort of tough rhetoric than it really got.
Well, we'll see what happens after the pageant in New York at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Howard Fineman, thanks for joining us this morning.
Of course, Campbell.
And it's 7:17. Once again, here's Matt.
Campbell, thank you. Hope is fading today to find a missing
Terror trail.